In Chapter 2 Part 1 we will be swapping placeholders with game assets and fixing any bugs that may occur. First off, we're going to create a folder in our root folder, and this is going to be our resources folder where all of our assets are going to be located. This is a requirement by Unity to have a resources folder. Now within this resources folder we are going to set up a mesh folder, and we're also going to set up a texture folder. And then we're going to create another one, and this is going to be for our fonts. And then the last one is going to be for materials. Now with those set up, we are going to minimize Unity. On the left is my root folder, so there's where our resources folder is, with our 4 new folders we created. And on the right is a folder with all of my current assets. So first we'll do mesh, and we'll drop the asteroid and the rocket ship FBX files, fresh out of 3D Max. We'll go into textures, and we'll add the diffuse for both those game objects. And we'll also add these 4 GUI textures, which will be used later on. And then last but not least, we'll add the font in there as well. Now we'll load Unity back up, and we'll start changing everything. So first things first, we will change our cube to be an rocket ship. That's squished because we were playing around with the scale, so we'll set that back to 1. And if we take a look, it's slightly off on the camera, so let's first of all 0 the Y on the camera, and then pull it back so we're in view. What we also need to do is, if you take a look, the collider is in the middle, not on the rocket ship. It's also a box collider, so we'll swap this for a mesh collider. Now the mesh collider, if you take a look, is a rocket ship, and everything looks like it's set correctly. Mesh collider, rocket body, there we are. Yep, so now it's set to collide with just the body. No, we didn't want UScript. We want to take a look at rotate, and we also want the game view available as well, so we need to just scoot both of them over. And then what we need to see is that this will go without disappearing off the edges of the camera. So if we get the camera and player controller, and we adjust its Z backwards, and then we rotate the rocket ship some more, we should be able to go all the way around without disappearing off the edge. Okay, let's just take a look at our build settings. It's set to web player currently, but I'm not getting the web option. Okay, we can take a look at that later. But for the time being, this goes all the way around like it should. We'll just 0 this back to where it was, and then we will put everything back to where it should be. Now we've still got the grey on here, but what we need to look at now is the win box. So currently we would, if we go all the way to the end, you'll notice we don't actually collide with the win box. Win box is there, and our rocket ship, it hasn't hit it. So what we'll do is we will adjust it so that we are able to hit it no matter what way round we are. So no matter what rotation we're at, we will still now be able to hit the box. So we should now get, there we go, we've got U1. And even if we rotate around here, see, no, can't hit the asteroid. We're actually not able to. It's out of our rotation range. So if we pause this take a look, get our rocket ship and rotate it, and take our placeholder asteroid, and we'll move this to make sure the numbers are right. So 2.62, we need to remember that, because when we stop this in the player mode, it puts it back to where it was. So we'll change this to 2.62. Now when we play it, we should have the ability to be able to collide with this and get a game over instead of you win. So now that we have those three working, let's change this sphere. Let's get this changed. So we'll change this to the asteroid. And now we actually have game assets. Yep, everything still works there. Let's change this material so that we actually have some colour going on as well. So we'll change the asteroid to its colour, and now we have colour. And the main menu still works as well. We'll have to change that in a bit, make it look a bit more pretty. And we still get you win as well. Quick update, just found out why we didn't have the web option under the view aspect. If we take a look in the build settings, web player is what we were going to be doing. It's actually highlighted. It's not highlighted. We need to actually switch it to web player, and then that now will give us the option to have the web view, which now runs perfectly. This is the way it's going to look online. Fantastic. In Chapter 2, Part 2, we're going to expand our collision script to look at multiple lives. Starting a new script, we're first off going to add in a uScript event, and that's going to allow us to have something start as soon as this graph starts, which is the master object. Now what we're going to do is we're going to set an integer, which is essence a number. So when this graph starts, so basically when the level loads, we want to set a number. And the number that we're going to set is going to be our lives. We're going to set this to 3. We're going to expose this to Unity so that it can be used by other scripts and other graphs, and also so that we can adjust it possibly later in the inspector. Just going to create a comment, pop this around here, adjust this, call this global, or lives global. Right, now what we're going to do is we're going to remove the compare bool from this trigger event, and we're going to make this a little bit more intuitive. Shift everything over to the side, give us a bit more room to play with. And rather than a compare bool, we want to compare an integer. So that previous number that we were talking about, the lives, we actually want to compare that, because we actually want to see how many lives we have left by the time we get to the end, because this is the win collision that we're looking at here. So first number we're putting in is 3, which is the lives, which will change depending on how many things we hit. And the one we want to compare it against is 1. Now what we're going to say is if it is less than 1, you have lost. If it is greater than or equal to 1, then you're okay because you haven't lost all of your lives. So once you've hit the end of the level, you essentially have won. So we'll save this level, well, save this script should I say, wait for it to compile. Then we'll load up player rotate on hit, sorry, and we'll remove all of this again. move the collision debug out of the way. Now what we're going to do is we're actually going to reflect what we've just created. So we'll go to win collision and we'll take a look for lives. There she is. Put that here, and then if we drag this in there, because that's the win box that we're actually using as a reference. Now what we need to do is we need to be a way to adjust that number every time we trigger this event. So on hits, this is on every single asteroid, so we need to subtract 1 from winbox. So first number we're going to have is the winbox, and the second number we're going to have is 1. And the result is what we're actually going to do. So what we actually want to do is we want to update the lives to be the new result. So we're actually going to have another set integer. So we're going to set the number. Now the target we're going to have is the lives again. But we need another integer for the result to transfer it over. So let's pop another one in, because we can't just transfer it straight across, so we need actually a number. So if you press I on your keyboard, you actually get an integer. It's a hotkey for you. Pop them in, so the result will fill that 0, and then it will go into set the setting of the integer, and the target will be live. So lives will be reset to whatever this figure is. So wait for this to compile. Take a look at our scene. We've only got 1 at the moment, so we've no real way of testing this properly. So, but we're going to need a bit more room if we're going to do this properly. So let's extend this out to 50, and then we need to do the same thing to the path. So we'll go to moon path, and we will change this to 50. And if we grab the asteroid, and we need to make a couple more of them, so duplicate them, and we change this one to 20, and we will take this one to 30. Seems fine. Speed forward may change, so let's just adjust that to 7. So it's 7 seconds to get to the end, because it's now a longer path. So we managed to hit the 2. We didn't manage to hit the 1 at the start, so we're still getting U1, even though we collided with 2 of them. So it is counting it. So let's just keep an eye on lives, and let's move this one so we can actually get it into a decent position. So we'll change this one to 10. Let's give it another try and make sure we keep an eye on the lives in the inspector here. So that's 2, 1, 0. Game over. It works. In Chapter 2, Part 3, we will be streamlining our current scripts, rearranging their positions, and taking away control from a player that has a game over screen. Right, in order to make this a little bit more streamlined, what we're going to do is, first off, we're going to basically swap around the collision detection for our asteroids and our rocket ship. So we're going to turn off the triggers on the asteroids, and add rigid bodies to each of them. Make sure the gravity's off. We don't want them just dropping off the world while you're playing, because this is meant to be in space. So we'll just do that for the last one. And then what we will do is we'll go to the rocket ship, and we will make this a trigger. So we'll come over to the trigger and tick it on. Then what we'll do is we will come over to UScript. Now this is the on hit trigger event, so what we're going to do is we're actually just going to copy all of this And rather than have this on the asteroid, we're actually going to put it on the rocket ship. So we're going to put it over in player rotation. Just move this up here. And what you do need to do is remove this as the instigator, because the owner now is the rocket ship. What we want to do is we want to add the instigator as the asteroid. So we'll just pop that in there. So we'll drag and drop it in. And then what we're going to do is we are going to load up on here. Oh, we need to save this first. And we'll just remove all of this out of the middle so it doesn't conflict. We'll make sure we still have the debug in there. We will remove that at the end. But we'll have it just for the time being. Save this. And then hop back over to player rotation. And what we're going to do is we're going to remove this here and actually just put it in. You can actually just type it in. Makes it a little easier to read. One less box on the screen. We're going to move this over here and actually just delete it. And what we're going to do now is we're going to have a compare integer. Down here, there it is. And what we're going to do is we'll just move this up, give us a bit more room. We'll take our lives, duplicate it, and this is what we're going to be comparing. We're going to be comparing lives, and we're going to be comparing it to 1, same as we did previously on the win box. And then what we're going to do is we're going to set a boolean. And what we actually want to do is we want to take away control of the player. So when the lives are going to be less than 1, we want to set this to false. So we want to turn off the control for the player. So what we'll do is we'll come down here, we'll just copy and paste this. So what we need to first of all do is actually make this an exposed variable. So we'll control it, we'll call it control, we'll expose it, and then this will now be able to be affected by this script above. So we'll just tie that in there. Now what will happen is when your lives are less than 0, the control will be turned off, so you will no longer be able to rotate the rocket ship around a center point. And then let's just take a look. We'll pop in some text and we'll do the game over text in here. So if we do this here, we can then take that out of the win collision. So we'll just change the size, want it fairly large. 256 for the time being is a number. We'll pop in game over. Just to let you know that you've failed. Okay, so that all looks good. Let's just make sure the math's all correct. Yes. When you collide, you minus 1 off of the lives, and then you set that back out as the result. Okay. And then when the lives are less than 1, so after 3 collisions, we will then turn the control off for the player, which means that you will no longer be able to rotate, and we will print game over. So it will no longer wait until you hit the win box at the end of the level to tell you that you've lost. It will tell you immediately after you've lost all 3 lives. This is why we're switching it onto this rather than keeping it elsewhere. So 1, 2, 3, game over. Okay, that's slightly off center. And it's still printing game over at the bottom there, so we need to remove that from the win script. So we'll pop back into uScript, and we'll just adjust this. We'll stick this, we'll center it. And we'll just give it some metallic there as well. So we'll save this. And then we'll go into win. And then we will remove the losing condition, because we don't want to wait until we get to the end of the level to tell us that we've lost. We want to We want to tell the player they've lost when they've lost all 3 lives. So we'll just connect that less than up to the delay for the loading the level. So I'll still give the player the ability to get to the end and be able to restart. So give it a try now. 1, 2, 3 collisions, game over. And we don't have control, so we can't turn left and right. And then we should, after a delay, it should send us back to the main menu. There we go. Let's try again, but we will try winning this time, just to make sure that hasn't been affected. And get a tiny little U1 in the middle. But we're still able to control it. And we still get the main menu as well. In Chapter 2, Part 4, we will be adding a retry button to our Game Over screen. Before we start, I've noticed a quick little bug. We didn't have this set to web in our previous one, so if we watch and we get a Game Over screen, yeah, it's kind of going a little bit off the sides. So what we need to do is pop back into UScript and just adjust the Game Over text in player rotation. So we'll take font size down from 256 and we'll drop it to, I don't know, 100. We'll give 100 a try. Let's save this, give it a try and take a look, see if hopefully that will fit on screen. Yeah, that's much better. That fits on screen. Now what we're going to do in this particular part is we're going to take a look at the option to have a retry. I don't like the fact that the player has to constantly keep going back to the main menu to retry the level. That doesn't seem realistic. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to remove this whole if you've lost you have to wait to hit the win box. What we need to do is we need a way to check whether or not the rocket ship has lost all its lives before it gets to the win box, or what should I say, when it hits the win box we want to check. So what we're going to do is we're going to compare a boolean, and the boolean we're going to compare is the control. So we're going to check whether or not the player has control of his rocket ship or not, because obviously if he doesn't have control of his rocket ship then he's crashed and lost all of his lives. So we'll just find control in reflected, there it is. And we've got to make sure that we tell it which game object it's associated with, which is the rocket ship. Now it's normally true, but what we want it to do is we want to say if you hit the win box and control is true, we want it to say you've won, and then we want it to have a delay and then go back to the main menu for the time being. That will change obviously if we have another level to load up. And let's also change the win to the same size as the game over. Now currently this, if you hit the end of the track and hit the win box, which I'll show you in a second, and you've lost all your lives, nothing will happen now. It won't send you back to the main menu. So if we take a look now, if we win to start with, you won, nice and big, and then a couple of seconds later we get sent back to the main menu. We click on new game and this time lose all of our lives. We get game over instantly, and that's it. We're kind of stuck at the moment. But what we really wanted to have is a retry option, and we want that retry button to appear as soon as we've lost all our lives. So we'll pop over to player rotation, and what we're going to do is we're going to slide everything down a little bit to give us some more room, and we are going to use a GUI button. So we'll go GUI and then we'll take a look. We'll have a button. and the text we want is retry. We're not going to use a texture in there at the moment, and the position we will don't know the position we're going to have it at the moment, so we're going to have to look to change that. But what we want is a load level. So on the button up, so after you've clicked it, we want to load the level, and we're going to currently load the level, only level we've got, which is scene 1, which will basically put us back to the starting point. Now we've got at the moment we've got no way of positioning this, so what we're going to do is see we need an XY and a W height, so an XY width and height. So what we need to do is we need to add a variable that holds all of those, which is a rect, and that will hold all those informations. Now we're going to expose this so we can adjust it in the inspector once we pause it. So we'll call this retry button. We'll expose it to Unity. Now with GUIs you need a way of starting them off, because currently this by itself won't do anything. We need a way of actually triggering this. So if we come down here and we take a look, we have control. We know that when control is turned off, it's the end. So if we come back up here and we use this as our way of telling the system that we have died, we've lost all 3 of our lives. We have a comparable, and then if the control is false, do this. So if the control is false, then provide us with a retry button, which is down here. So all of this will happen all at the same time, because this is once we've died. So if we just shift all this across, and what we need is a way of starting this. So with GUIs you need an on GUI command. So we just take a look in the GUI events. There we go. On GUI. Oh, let's connect this up. Which is, if you're doing anything to do with the GUI or the GUI, then you need to have that as a way of starting it. Unfortunately, you can't plug the GUI in from a GUI button from the out of any other event that I'm aware of. I'm going to just shift these out, zoom out a little bit. I'm going to shift everything to do with game over off to one side. Just put a comment around this. Just move it a little bit further out. I'll drag this down a little bit. Now everything that's in this box currently is what happens when you have no lives left. So let's just shift this across, grab these. Oh, we don't want to actually grab the comment box, let's move them out of the way. Move everybody over a bit. Move the comment box back. There we go. Right, so let's change the title of this comment box once we've got it in position. We're going to change this to no lives left. So it's very easily for us to see that all of this occurs when there are no lives left. So save this. Give it a try. 1, 2, and 3. We have game over. Now we don't have a retry button because it's a tiny little thing in the very top corner there. So what we're going to do is, if we come across to the hierarchy and we take a look at the rocket ship, we've got the option here of our XY width and height. So let's just start playing with these numbers until we get it where we'd like. Now remember, if you're doing anything while it's in play mode, as soon as you turn play mode off, it will set everything back to 0. So let's just tidy these numbers up a little bit. And then we're going to use just need some way of getting these tools, these details. Notice it's now put it back in the top corner again while we were in play mode. So let's, wasn't very clever, was it? Okay, let's go with player controller, drop this down again, and pop these numbers back in. And this time write them down possibly. Right, let's tidy them up again. Right. Now I need to, I know what I do, I use the snip tool. We'll just copy those across. We have them there. Let's just go back into, now they're all set back to here. Get our snip tool up. I'm just going to move this off to 450, 375, 100, and last 35. Alright then, let's give it a try. Intentionally fail. So 1, 2, 3, and then we have a retry button. Let's give it a try, and it works. And we still have you win, so that still works as well. And after a couple of seconds we should get the main menu. So everything seems to be still working. Great. Give it one more try. There we go. Works. In Chapter 2, Part 5, we're going to implement a visual representation of our lives via a GUI system. In order to display textures on the screen, what we're going to do is we need to load them first off. So we've already got them in our resources folder. What we're going to do is we're going to come into UScript, and we're going to come up here and we're going to look for load texture 2D. So we'll type in texture, or no, load, there we go, load texture 2D, there we go. This is what we're going to use to load in the different lives that we have available. Because it's a GUI, we need the onGUI event to start off with. So now that we have this, what we're going to do is we're going to have a GUI texture, and because we're going to load the texture and then we're going to display the texture. Now we need to tell the variable, or we need to tell the GUI texture what we're going to load. So if we pop both of these in, and then we also need a way of telling it where to display it. So we need to add in another rect as its position. Now again, we don't know these figures, so we will be adjusting these in the inspector after we've played the game. So first of all we need to load up the first texture, and we're going to load up texture lives. Now that's the one that has all 3 lives available to it. Now we need to expose this to Unity in order to be able to adjust it. So if we pop in here health, lives, expose it, save it, and then we'll give it a try. Here's our details we're going to use. So we'll hit play, and then as soon as it starts we'll hit pause, and we'll just crank these up until we can start seeing something on screen. There it is in top left. There we go, we've started getting it on screen now. Behind the UScript watermark. As we're using the Learning Edition version of UScript, it comes with the watermark. Let's just adjust these to get them up to a little bigger. That's a bit nicer. Let's put these up to 250. Slide these along. I want them down a little bit further as well. Get these into position and make it 700. That looks good. Right, so we're going to use our snipping tool again, and then I'm just going to move that off to my other screen so I can keep that open at the same time. Turn this off and then adjust them back to what they were. So 710. There we go. So now we have our lives up in the top left. Now obviously they're not changing yet because we haven't actually adjusted the code to say remove or change the texture, because we're not actually going to be removing textures. What we're going to do is actually going to be replacing the textures themselves. So in order to do that, we will need to basically copy this load texture to GUI texture 3 times. So if we copy and paste them out, oh, wrong one. That's the one behind it we want. That's the one. And then that one. We move these all up here like this. Now the positions are all going to be the same, so let's just sort the textures out first and the positions. There we go. So although it looks like a spider's nest, it does make sense. We'll move this out of the way because we need to actually put in here a way of switching between them. So we'll come up here and we'll put in a switch. And just hook this up. Now the output that we're going to be using is our lives. So obviously this number changes, and this we'll use this to change which path we're actually going to go down, which path to fire. So 1, 2, and 3. So when we've got 1 life, we'll be doing the top one. So let's look this up. Lives 1. We have 2 lives. 2. And when we have 3, 3. There we go. So we've got the correct textures loading up. So if we now save it, and we'll give it a try. When it's finished compiling, there we go. Ah, right, we didn't want that. We didn't want all 3 to disappear at once. So let's take a look. What did we do? Oh, okay, we didn't actually connect these up. There we go. Now hopefully it should work. Let's give it a try. Very nice. Subtracted exactly the way we wanted. Now we'll give it another try and we will remove 1, 2. Oh, wait. Game over. Where do our lives go? Let's give that another try. We'll just remove 1 life this time and we'll take a look at our lives. Ah, 1 disappeared. Okay, let's take a look, see what we've done. We'll see how we can figure this out. I think I might know what's going on. I think it's the win box itself. We're actually hitting the win box, and it's thinking it's triggering that to remove a life because it's actually a collision box. So let's just move this over and let's give it a way of telling the system or telling the game that we've actually come to the end, we've finished. So let's set another true or false, so a set bool, and we will have this set to true on, yeah, we'll have this set to true, and we'll set another boolean, and we'll actually name this one so that it's visible to everyone, and we'll have this, once it's set true, Well, it's going to be set true when the trigger happens. Yeah, so we'll call this finished. And we'll expose it to Unity so that it can be accessed elsewhere. And then we'll just have this set as out. We don't want set true, we want it just as out. Yep. Okay, so when we hit the win box, that will be set to true, whereas it should stay as false until that happens. So we'll save this, we'll load up player rotation, and what we're going to do is we're just going to adjust our trigger event here. We'll just move this off to the left, give us some more room. And we'll actually want to check that ball, so we'll do another compare ball. And we don't want it on true, we're going to have it on exit. So on exit, check whether or not we have finished. That's what we're going to do. So let's go into reflected because it's in this level already, and then we need to actually attach the win box as the game object this is connected to, which is always false until we get to the end. So what we're going to do is take a look. So when it's false, we can subtract our lives, but if it's true, so when we leave the asteroids, do this check first. If we haven't finished, then that's fine. If we have finished, then do nothing because, well, we've come to the end, so it doesn't matter anymore. We don't want to be subtracting lives once we've got to the end. So we'll give it a save and give it a try. So we'll just 1, 2, and then we'll avoid the third. Great. That's exactly what we wanted. Now let's just quickly try, give a retry. Go back to the main menu, retry, and make sure it works without hitting anything. So this one should stay, and it does. Fantastic. We'll just give it another try, make sure the game over works as well. Games is only as good as the testing. There we go. Fantastic, everything works.